Story 1. I support any effort to remove pedophiles and rapists from the streets. Story 2. Full transparency needs to happen. I do not care if they are red or blue. Pedophiles need to suffer for their actions. Story 3. I fear for their safety. The people who went to Epstein's island were not ordinary. They were wealthy and had connections, which is why they have been able to get away with it for so long. Story 4. I think it's disgusting and disgraceful that they have to, but I'm proud of their strength and willingness to do it. Story 5. At least one prince and one or two presidents are involved, so these are people at the very top of society with vast wealth and resources. Coming out is incredibly brave for them. Story 6. I think it is ridiculous that these victims need to do this while authorities are not taking action against the other perpetrators. I am so proud of them. They are incredibly brave and resilient. Story 7. Those girls could shoot their abusers in the head in broad daylight, and I would say they were justified in doing so. They are owed justice, and the justice system has failed in that duty. Thus, if they seek their own justice, they are permitted. The debt is that great. Story 8. Trump is angry about it and calls it a hoax by Democrats, which shows that he is hiding something. Story 9. It's sad because it means they've given up on the legal system being able to help, and considering how our legal system is being actively undermined by someone associated with that place, I can't blame them for losing faith in the system. Story 10. He campaigned on releasing this information. It is time to follow through and let us decide for ourselves. Whether blue or red, we need to see it. Story 11. Honestly, good for them. The system clearly failed, so if they want to take the wheel themselves, I understand. It is just wild that survivors are doing the work the government should have handled years ago. Story 12. I applaud the victims and hope they stay safe, since many of the perpetrators are likely powerful people. If anything happens to any of the victims, the world will know it was retaliation. Story 13. I worry about these survivors and hope they have security at all times and a fail-safe plan if something or someone tries to harm them. Story 14. I think it is the closest we are going to get to a full accounting of the whole tragic, monstrous saga. The truth is that Epstein was an agency informant or asset, and most of the materials people want to see and know will be classified for national security purposes. Story 15. Trump literally had stealth fighters fly overhead as a show of force to intimidate them. He is scared because he is about to be outed as the child fucker we all know he is. Fuck him and anyone else still defending or supporting that Make America Great Again bullshit. Left or right, male or female, I do not give a fuck. Everyone on the list can burn, for all I care. I do not want criminals or kitty diddlers involved in any level of my representative democracy. Story 16. The women have many reasons to fear being disappeared. Lawsuits are nothing. They are incredibly brave. Story 17. I hope they remain safe. Many powerful people do not want that list revealed, and law enforcement does not appear to be on their side. Story 18. My question is, this should not have been an announcement at all. It gives Donald Trump and the people on the list time to destroy or hide evidence or take other actions. The list should have been compiled in private. Story 19. They deserve justice. I am still more concerned about fascism. Story 20. This is so far beyond brave. It's unimaginably courageous. To put themselves out there knowing the harassment they are about to receive, not only from supporters of the Make America Great Again movement, but possibly from some of the most powerful people in the world. They are risking their own lives so that all voices can be heard. Think for a moment about what it takes to do such a thing. Story 21. Someone buzzed them with fighter jets as they were taking questions from the press. Let that sink in. Story 22. Possibly a dumb question, but what prevents Donald Trump's team from bribing a group of people to pretend to be survivors? They could have these fake survivors tell stories to absolve him and implicate others. Then the Make America Great Again media feeds could run with those stories to muddy the waters. For example, imagine people suddenly claiming to be survivors and alleging that public figures abuse children at a notorious location, while also claiming they lace people's drinks with substances. Story 23. It's messed up that survivors have to play detective to expose predators. The system failed them, and now courage is their only protection. Story 24. I do not want them to put themselves in any more danger, but I fully support them working with the authorities to catch those who deserve it. Story 25. 1. The list is not actually a list. It is the collection of investigative and courtroom documents that have been generated, which include the names of people who were interviewed, the names of victims, the names of people who provided information, the names of suspects, and much more. The list is not a roster of perpetrators, it is not a smoking gun, and it is not a mea culpa. It is simply the assembled reports that contain information people seek, but it is not a simple list of people who did bad things. 2. The list is not an indictment. The documents do not explicitly state that a particular person committed a specific crime at a specific time and place. If someone published all the documents, you might find damning evidence or testimony, but more often they are reports by investigators noting where a name came from, what further questions remain, suggestions to consult lawyers, evasive answers, and recommendations for no contact. 3. We live under the presumption of innocence. Being mentioned in the list does not make someone guilty, even if an investigation uncovered evidence or testimony suggesting possible wrongdoing. The government must charge a person with a crime, and that person must have an opportunity to defend themselves in court. Without that process, legal proceedings are illegitimate. 4. Because people named in the list have not been charged and have not had a chance to address accusations in court, anyone asserting their guilt risks defamation and slander liability. If survivors or victims drew up their own lists, those lists would be unsubstantiated except for testimony, which, without additional evidence, can result in he said, she said situations. In court, absent contrary evidence, those accounts may be treated as equally credible. Outside court, and in the absence of a conviction, such accusations lack legal merit and leave the accuser vulnerable to civil lawsuits by wealthy, well-connected individuals who claim to be protecting their reputations. Story 26. More power to them. Why are victims supposed to be silent? Story 27. They will be ignored. Never underestimate America's willingness to believe perpetrators instead of survivors. Story 28. Why hold a press conference to say you will reveal names? You are standing in front of a microphone. Say the names of the men who victimized you. The fact that this is being produced like a reality television show makes me almost certain no actual substance will come of it. Story 29. If only they had believed them when it first came out, they would not have to be re-traumatized every time they recount it. Believe women. Story 30. I am proud of their bravery and conviction and deeply ashamed that our government is not standing beside them. It does not matter who the perpetrators are. They must be held accountable for these heinous crimes. Story 31. I hope they can force the disclosure of all the Epstein files and find the justice and peace they deserve. Story 32. I would be willing to bet that many of them suddenly die in suspiciously timed accidents. Story 33. May they all find justice in whatever form that takes. Story 34. What are your thoughts on karma farmers turning headlines into low-effort questions and posting them here 50 times a day? Story 35. It is awful and unfair that these people had to endure abuse, likely at a young age, cannot rely on the justice system, and now feel they have no choice but to go public to name and shame their abusers. Our society has failed them. We have long failed victims of sexual abuse by men. Story 36. I do not think there is enough safety for them to survive that emotionally or physically. There would be another loss either of life or of part of themselves. Story 37. If something can be destroyed by the truth, it should be. Let them speak and let everyone hear. Story 38. It is sad that they are much more likely to become victims of the system or of violence than to receive any form of justice. Story 39. I am sad that we live in a world where they feel they need to do this because the people in charge will not. Story 40. We have failed as a society if this much effort is required of victims to obtain even the slightest measure of justice. Story 41. I am so proud of these survivors for their bravery and for standing together. We should recognize that, like them, we are strongest when we do the same. We are the gears that keep the world running and determine what is valuable and what is right and wrong. We should act accordingly. Story 42. I like the idea, but the potential for it to turn into a witch hunt based on hearsay gives me pause. Story 43. The fact that the administration took so long to release this suggests guilt. Any innocent person would have released it years ago. Story 44. I would guess that the list has existed for a while and is already in the hands of a variety of people. Maybe it is some sort of bait to test the loyalties of the last pissants. Story 45. Investigate and prosecute every single name on that list. No one is above the law. Story 46. They might not get the response or political backing they deserve, but well done to these brave survivors of despicable abuse. Story 47. They will attempt to discredit the survivors by calling them liars. Story 48. When systems or individuals with the authority to advocate effectively for justice abdicate that duty, they should expect to be lumped in with wrongdoers. Story 49. Fantastic. Get them fuckers, no matter what side of the aisle they are from. Story 50. As a survivor myself, I support these women. I applaud and respect their strength and bravery. Story 51. It is an issue that should not depend on whether you are on the political right or left. Opposition from either side suggests they are all guilty and should be imprisoned. Story 52. If the White House can do it, so can the victims. Watch Trump complain about how it is a hoax like the petulant scab he is. Story 53. Good for them. But as long as the grand old party is in charge, nothing will happen. No one will face any actual consequences, and Make America Great Again supporters will still worship their golden scumbag. Story 54. I did not hear about this. I wonder if there will be attempts to silence or bribe the victims. Story 55. I agree as long as the cultists do not target them. Story 56. It is incredibly brave of them. I hope they remain safe. Story 57. I am honestly surprised it has taken this long to simply wait. I do not understand how anyone expects Donald Trump to release the files. Only pressure on members of Congress will force the issue. Story 58. I am all for it. Those pieces of shit pedophiles do not deserve any kind of protection. Story 59. Can I create a filter to hide any post that begins with the phrase, "What is your thought?" Story 60. Sounds like a great idea. My pessimistic view is that it does not really matter in the end. All the names are big players. Do you think the world cares if Donald Trump, Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, Mitch McConnell, Elon Musk, or others were customers of Epstein? We the people care, but the world does not. The reality is that the heads of global companies, banks, and governments are at minimum complicit. Someone knew and did nothing until it could blow back on them. They do not care until they might lose money, and they cannot lose money because they control everything. Story 61. Why would anyone have any issue with this? The biggest concern is that someone could make false allegations, causing others to lose credibility or be met with skepticism. Story 62. Anyone on the list will deny it. Supporters of the Make America Great Again movement will believe denials from Republicans and will not believe those who are not Republicans, just as the Russian misinformation machine tells them. Story 63. It is crazy that he is ordering military flyovers to drown out their press conference. Every action is increasingly desperate. Story 64. They have tried everything else. Maybe that is what is needed. If lawsuits are filed by the men named, there will be discovery and depositions. They will have the opportunity to clear their names, but I think they will choose to attempt to pay these women off. Story 65. I'm devastated. Let the pedophiles be exposed, removed from office, and held accountable. The fact that any sitting politician thinks, if the list is released as is the world would crash, is a profoundly inadequate response to child sexual abuse. Story 66. Protect them at all costs. Their voices matter more than public relations lists. Story 67. I think they should have shown up today with the list. Announcing that they are working on the list is just a political maneuver, and from what we have seen so far, no one has been able to outmaneuver Donald Trump. Story 68. It is pitiful that the victims are forced to do this themselves because those in power refuse to act. I fully support the victims doing whatever they need so justice can finally be achieved. Story 69. I think anyone opposed to this should be dragged into the streets and horsewhipped, then put in a pillory in the capital square of their state to be jeered at and have vegetables thrown at them. Story 70. Sad that they have to. Glad that they are finding a way to stand up for themselves or deal with it. Hope they stay safe. Story 71. I'd like to say I'm for it, but only if there is oversight. If there is nothing to stop someone from coming forward and accusing someone they politically disagree with, I have to disagree. Story 72. I am with them. They do not owe us a reality show, only their safety. If they choose to speak, that list must end up in the hands of those who investigate, not in gossip. If it makes some golden armchairs tremble, so be it. Armchairs do not have trauma. People do. Story 73. Someone needs to release the truth. The government is not releasing it. 75% of the files are redacted. Story 74. I am afraid for their safety and mental health. They may be attacked for being woke, for supporting artificial intelligence, or for whatever the Trump cult says. I am glad they are numerous enough to form a support group and act together. There is strength and legitimacy in numbers. Story 75. I do not care if even my dog is implicated on the Epstein list. He most assuredly is not. I want the unredacted version released yesterday. Story 76. They will need to identify people quickly with proof, or they will be Arkancided. Story 77. They are incredibly brave for doing it. It will certainly expose them to harassment and who knows what else. Story 78. I'm astonished by their bravery. I'm glad they're doing this. Story 79. I think they are going to need some really good security. Story 80. It is all manufactured. The elites and politicians are on the same side, pushing for an authoritarian takeover. This is a final effort either to cause mass chaos or to force the Trump administration to test how far the executive branch can go. The Epstein case has been around since the early 2000s and was dismissed as a conspiracy theory. Now it is treated as the most important topic. The average person does not care about the victims. Ask the person pumping gas next to you, they will not care. Both sides are using the case against each other. Liberals act as if they did not ignore this during President Biden's term, and some conservatives pretend that President Trump did not campaign on exposing everyone linked to the Epstein files. It is all nonsense. Story 81. I think ordering a military flyover of the area where they were holding the press release is the pettiest thing I have ever seen a president do, and that is saying something. It is extremely revealing of him and remarkably brave of them. Story 82. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene is very involved with this, I am worried that deals were made to name certain people and exclude others. Story 83. I don't understand why they haven't already done it. Most of them probably know the names of people beyond Epstein and Maxwell who molested or abused them. Story 84. I am not going to lie. This list could be huge. There are a lot of dirty names out there. Story 85. It is sad that they have to do all this themselves because the Department of Justice is a joke. They are all incredibly brave. Story 86. Coming out would mean instant death for them. Anonymously working on their own list could work, but how trustworthy would that list be without any proof to back it up? Story 87. My concern is whether every victim consented to having their name added to the list. There is a large number of victims, and I suspect communication among them is, at best, complicated. That said, I have no issue with victims receiving proper justice. Story 88. Survivors who speak out are among the most powerful forces for justice when the system fails. If they are willing to shine a light into that darkness, the world should start listening, because silence is what allowed this to happen in the first place. Story 89. I hope they stay safe. Epstein did his best to entrap the most powerful people on the planet, apparently to blackmail them on behalf of a government. Power has a way of protecting its rancid self. For example, Virginia Giuffre insisted she was not suicidal, and Boeing whistleblowers made similar statements. Story 90. I wonder how many will still be around by the end of the year. Story 91. Women have to do everything around here. I hope someone brings them snacks. Story 92. A lot of rich people are clenching their buttholes right now, and that's giving me a semi-chub. Story 93. They're making a list and checking it twice. We are going to find out who has a pedophilic vice. Taco Clown, they're coming for you. Story 94. I think it's incredibly brave of them. Speaking out and taking control of their story must be both empowering and really difficult. Story 95. They shouldn't have had to. These women have been failed at every turn by every system we have. I hope to God they can be kept safe. Story 96. They will not survive much longer. I fear they will soon be reported as having committed suicide like Virginia and Jeff. Story 97. I am happy they are doing it. The truth needs to come out. That being said, I am also worried about them. Republican men can be absolutely horrible to survivors of sexual assault when they feel that their leader is implicated. The things they said on television and social media about Jean Carroll were nothing short of deplorable, and I do not expect them to behave better this time. Story 98. My God, they're so brave, but oh boy do I worry about their safety. Story 99. As they should. The government is doing nothing to expose everyone on it, and it is time somebody actually made a move. If I were accused of being a pedophile and a serial rapist and I had solid documentation to clear my name, I would post it everywhere. There is a reason they are trying to make it disappear. Story 100. I think Trump could have done this, and the fact that he didn't marks him as a massive fucking nonce. America is the country with the pedo president. Story 101. An example of the saying, if you want something done right, do it yourself. Story 102. Sad that our current administration is not supporting the Epstein survivors and helping to bring a pedophile to justice. Story 103. They might need around-the-clock security now. They are very brave women and should be protected by any means. The makings of a hit conspiracy movie. Story 104. I think they should have prepared and released the list without prior announcement. Story 105. There will likely be many suicides. Those women are in danger. Story 106. It is well past time that the grotesque men who preyed on these girls are named, whatever the consequences. Everyone knows about that island, and we deserve to know if anyone who held or currently holds a position in the United States government was involved. This is not acceptable, and such people should not be lawmakers. Story 107. Why does this question appear repeatedly in this subreddit? Yet the version with the worst grammar becomes the most popular? They did not even spell survivor correctly. Story 108. It is horrible that it has come to this to try to get the truth out. The justice system is being used to protect the elites tied to this, and Donald Trump is a major one. Story 109. I think they have a lot of courage and I hope it works. Story 110. Seriously glad they are. It's better we know who was involved. Story 111. Child rapists should receive the harshest legal penalties. Story 112. Just keep them safe. I hope justice is served. They deserve it. Story 113. Awesome. I just hope they are not influenced to add the names of people who were not participating. The powerful have their ways. Story 114. They have more courage than any of the spineless Republicans in Congress who bend over daily for their pedophile, rapist, orange god. Story 115. When they announce that they are working on it instead of just releasing it, it becomes a hype train toward the Mueller report. Story 116. It is pathetic that the government won't do its job. America is not great, and I am not proud. Story 117. I am kind of surprised they have not already done this, both for themselves and to give the names to prosecutors. Story 118. I am as scared for their safety and the safety of their families as I am proud of them for taking a stand. They should not have to fight any further, but they are doing so at great risk to themselves. These women are heroes. Story 119. If it is not too distressing for them, survivors can mock their attackers and expose their cowardice and weakness. Rake those attackers over the coals figuratively. People like that often cannot stand being ridiculed. Story 120. It is a scam to placate people and create the illusion of action. Nothing will happen. The process will be dragged out and eventually die out in a few months or years. If not, why have they not done it yet, and what are they waiting for? There should be a simple website where every survivor can list the names of people who abused them, Briefly describe the abuse at whatever level of detail they are comfortable with, and include dates and times if possible. Others can track flight records and prove that a famous person was on Epstein Island at a given time. I can 100% guarantee hundreds of people would work on that for free. I do not understand the delay. What is being compiled and how long does it take to list names? First, there was drama about a conference expected to be explosive, but nothing happened. Now the claim is that a list is being compiled. This is another Mueller report nothing burger. Chance of Mueller time gave people the impression that something was happening, but nothing happened. Story 121. No one else is doing it. Name those responsible and drive those creatures out of hiding. Story 122. I think what they did today was kind of dumb. They announced their plan publicly. You do not give your opponents a preview of your plan if you can help it. The people who will be on that list are far too powerful to just sit back and wait. Announcing that you are working on a list puts a huge target on your back and exposes you to significant risk of being sued into oblivion at best and subjected to severe retaliation at worst. Today should have started with the announcement that they had already compiled a comprehensive list, followed by a public reading of the list by the victims in turn. I have great respect for those victims and the courage they display by coming forward, especially since the government clearly does not have their back. But I fear for their safety because I do not believe they received sound advice on how to approach this process. Story 123. I have so much respect for anyone who comes forward. It takes immense courage to confront powerful predators, and full transparency is exactly what is needed to keep these people accountable, no matter how rich or influential they are. Story 124. Nobody can complain. You cannot just tell them, why didn't you go to the police instead of Twitter? They just watched the justice system completely fail them. Story 125. The most ill-advised action is announcing that you are going to speak. Just speak. By waiting, you give opponents the opportunity to act. Story 126. No one else is doing it. It's a shame they have to drag the scales of justice out themselves, like ripping an old wet carpet from a falling down house. I hope they make that list and that everyone on it gets theirs. Story 127. Who wouldn't want a first-person, witness-generated list that is not redacted by the government? This is a stupid question. Story 128. I hope they have evidence for each name and enough money to hire lawyers. If they are sued, the lawyers can force discovery and further shame the rapists. Story 129. I hope for their safety throughout the process. They deserve so much. I wish them all the best. Story 130. It's fine, but do not get too excited. They already have all the names. They may not be sorted on paper for public release, but this is not new information they are suddenly compiling. They could have released the names years ago, but as they said in the press conference, they are not going to do it just to satisfy curiosity. They want investigations and prosecutions, and they are not releasing names until they are confident they will obtain justice. And rightfully so. Look at threads like this clamoring for the potential release of a list. While most of us also want to see those people face justice, I do not begrudge the survivors for not trusting anyone. Story 131. It depends. If there is evidence that a person was abused by Epstein, then yes. If someone only claims they were abused, it could become a complete mess, with Republicans accusing Democrats and Democrats accusing Republicans. Believe all accusers does not work when people will use it to make baseless accusations, and that can happen on any side of the political aisle. Story 132. Survivors who make a list are braver than most leaders. Justice only moves when someone risks their life to push it forward. The ugly truth is that powerful people hide behind silence, and these survivors are shattering it. Story 133. There is an old phrase, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. The rest of the world is urging the United States government to release the files, but the government is avoiding the issue. Since the government is unwilling to act, these women are taking matters into their own hands. These women are incredibly brave, and their actions may encourage others to come forward. There is strength in numbers, and the people affected by Epstein and his associates are building an army. Story 134. They are incredibly brave, and I hope they are well protected. Story 135. I am very concerned for their safety. These women are so brave, but the rapists they named may try to harm them. Story 136. Where the fuck was this during the election? How was this not front-page news the first time this nutjob ran for office? How this orange idiot ever made it this far is beyond me. Story 137. My thought is that people who rape children should go to jail, even if their job title is President of the United States of America. Story 138. Will you donate to their legal defense funds? Lawsuits will be filed around the world, and some countries are not receptive to accusations without corroboration. Story 139. Good for them. The goddamn Republicans certainly aren't going to do anything. Story 140. I am skeptical. Why now? This list could and should have existed long ago. Whoever is on this surprise list is tainted by the politics surrounding it. Half the country would not be surprised if Donald Trump were on that list, but if you accept that possibility, you must also accept that Nancy Pelosi could appear as well. Story 141. I do not think this will even come to anything. Each individual could right now make their own list and release it. The fact that they have not makes me think there is nothing beyond the charge. I suspect they are concerned about legal liability. Story 142. I do not think supporters of Make America Great Again will ever turn on their alleged pedophile cult leader. They love him no matter what, and it will not make a difference. Sadly, they also cheer his cruelty and when he acts like a 12-year-old bully. So they probably love hearing his victims recount what he has done to them too. Story 143. Can I donate to the cause? That sounds amazing. Do not hold any names back. Story 144. Instead of making a list, why not file a civil suit against their rapists? Story 145. I see Marjorie Taylor Greene was there to look like she cared. She should have been told to F off. Story 146. The pedophile in chief certainly is not going to prosecute the people on the list. I swear this country is rapidly moving toward a place where mob justice will start happening. Story 147. I support them, but I wish the rest of you would manage your expectations. Almost all Republicans are supportive of rape. They are not going to change which politician they support because of these revelations. They have supported and will continue to support rapists and pedophiles as long as there is a Republican label next to their name. See also Roy Moore. Story 148. No lawyer in the world would advise them to do that. All it takes is a misnaming or misrepresentation of someone, and they are ruined for life. And for what? Because the public wants gossip so badly that it will not wait for proper channels? The Epstein survivors have already provided their lists to law enforcement and have likely spent many hours cooperating with investigators. They have done enough for the public interest. Leave them alone. Story 149. Sure, I will be more honest than anyone else, especially Donald Trump and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Story 150. Real victims should come forward if they have experienced abuse. Story 151. Sadly, I think they will be knocked off by the rich and famous. Story 152. Honestly, it makes sense. If no one in power is going to push for the truth, then the people who lived it have every right to take control of the narrative. It is messy, but at least it is real. Story 153. If they do something like that to you, I want to be on your eventual jury so I can work hard to nullify it. Story 154. In any other case, this is exactly how it would be handled. You do not usually rely on the perpetrator to provide a list of contacts. You notify all the victims. Story 155. I think it is going to be frustrating because many people will seek to discredit the sexual assault survivors for political reasons, since the government will not release the files due to opposition from the Republican Party. Make America Great Again supporters will not care because they are kept in information silos and will never read this list. Moderates might and liberals will, but because the truth will be disputed, people will believe what they want to believe. The days when a scandal like Watergate could have the same impact are over because truth has become subjective for too many people. Story 156. I totally understand their hesitation to come forward, let alone name names. These are high-profile, wealthy, powerful people. The system itself is so corrupt that they cannot turn to anyone to protect them. They live in a world where people are quick to call victims liars when they accuse the powerful. So it is a no-win situation. Relive their trauma, risk their lives, and likely be branded a liar anyway. That is how powerful people get away with anything they want. They know they are in control. I wish they would come forward and name names, but in the end justice is unlikely to be served. These people will never face justice on any level. They got away with it and will likely continue to do so. Story 157. Did they actually release any names? From what I saw at the press conference, no suspects were named. When someone asked, the response was that all personally identifiable information would be redacted. Story 158. I wish they did not have to, but if that is the only way, I am all for it. Story 159. Good for them. I hope they have protection. Trump and other powerful figures will do whatever they can to silence them, including flyovers and playing loud sounds and music, which Trump used during speeches. Story 160. It would take a lot of courage to act, and I'm sure they would receive backlash from people accusing them of lying. This is probably why they have not done it already. Story 161. Book M. Dano. The mounting evidence is huge. If it is provable, lock them up. Story 162. They should have announced each one live, surrounded by supporters, with no chance of being shut down. Story 163. I am glad to hear some of these women are standing up to tyranny, putting their own lives on the line to expose how corrupt many of the rich and powerful are. If I had the means, I would help as I can. Of course, the die-hard Make America Great Again supporters, including Donald Trump, will claim it is a Democratic hoax and a coup, arguing he is doing such a good job with the economy and the country. He will also try to turn their actions into a political conflict so that the United States becomes deeply divided and at war with itself. I cannot stand how some people are so blinded by party allegiance that they ignore what is right or wrong even when there is evidence. I hope everyone involved, including Jeffrey Epstein, receives justice for their crimes against humanity. Story 164. Very brave, considering there are powerful people on the list. I hope they get the protection they need. Story 165. I think they would be extremely careful and have no social media or online presence because they are truly risking their lives. Story 166. The announcement should have been the release. The press meeting should have said we have already met in secret and compiled a list of names. Anything else is just bluster or an attempt to carve out deals behind the scenes. Just talk with no action. Announcing intent is worthless. Actions speak louder than words. Story 167. I would not wish what happened to those women on my worst enemy. That a situation has arisen in which these women feel compelled to relive a single second of it is abhorrent. That they will likely be publicly vilified at best for speaking out is unconscionable. Story 168. Good. The current United States government is on that list, so of course they are hiding it. Story 169. I've wondered for a long time why the press did not place greater emphasis on suggesting the survivors themselves come forward with names. People forget there were individuals affected by this abhorrent case, and their voices matter. I am glad they have the courage to do this. Story 170. Many victims will go unseen and be undermined by fake claims and hoaxes. This will diminish the credibility of genuine victims and lead to chaos, as often happens in similar cases. Story 171. I would have done it in silence, but now I fear for their safety. Story 172. Absolutely nothing will happen. Watch. The young men will scream at women, accusing them of slandering their God. They will receive death threats. Every local politician in the country will scramble to be rid of them for the sake of their superiors. News organizations will write hit pieces about them, calling them the 100 Epstein scammers. I bet the list will be only partial compared with everyone who was there. I am amazed anyone expects anything positive to happen in this scenario. Story 173. This strategy will not work on Trump and other powerful figures. Story 174. It will not include the voices of the dead, anonymous people, those still in hiding, or non-English speakers threatened by foreign powers. I hope those people will speak out and name names, I strongly fear the forum will be infiltrated by operatives seeking to discredit participants and muddy the waters, with 2 or 3 individuals making false or exaggerated allegations that shift the focus away from Trump. If Trump asks the Central Intelligence Agency to work on this, I hope they release the records of that request. Story 175. I think they are very brave and I applaud them for speaking up. I also think it is a literal tragedy that our Department of Justice has failed them. Story 176. Unverified online claims allege that Virginia Giuffre, who has made accusations against Prince Andrew, was paid off, struck by a bus, survived, and later allegedly died by suicide in hospital. These claims received minimal mainstream coverage. Story 177. Good for them, but I do not think anything will come of it. The truth is that the United States, especially Republicans, do not care about children. They are just props to be pulled out when it is convenient. Story 178. Those women are about to endure an unrelenting Make America Great Again assault on their character and that of their families. The standard operating procedure for Make America Great Again is to go after the victims. Story 179. I can see Trump either issuing the other pedophiles a pardon or giving them the Presidential Medal of Freedom. They are going after these guys, great guys by the way, total charmers, for something that, let us be honest, I did. I did it a lot and they loved it. The women could not keep their hands off us. It was like a magnet. Some people call it seduction, I call it being irresistible. And yes, sometimes we paid. So what? That is called access. That is called knowing what you want and getting it. Very normal. Very successful. Now they want to act shocked. Please. When I did it, it was glamorous. It was legendary. Now they want to throw the book at these guys for doing the same thing? It is hypocrisy. It is jealousy. It is political. They are trying to punish charisma. They are trying to criminalize being popular with women. It is a total disgrace. If they are guilty, then I am guilty, which I am not. Never was, never will be. But if I did it, and I did, they should be getting applause, not indictments. This is a witch hunt, a smear campaign, and we are not going to let it happen while we are still standing. Story 180. I hope it happens and that the list is comprehensive. It sounds too good to be true. Story 181. I genuinely think that would be a great idea. The whole situation has been handled terribly, and we still have corrupt, powerful pedophiles running free, able to repeat the same crimes. It's sickening to think about. Story 182. It's a good thing to believe victims, but we also need proof. Any accidental or intentional misidentification of people is extremely serious. As we saw with Al Franken, it is very easy to weaponize such claims for political gain. A single bad actor can destroy people. At least some politicians appear to treat accusations opportunistically, and for some it seems to help win elections. So yes, verify and corroborate everything. Information must be released, but only when it is verified and accurate. Story 183. It probably amounts to nothing. However, I am hoping they blow the lid off and take down every sick piece of crap involved. Story 184. With the powerful people on that list, it will never see the light of day, as releasing it would be signing your own death certificate. Don't get too excited. Story 185. I am glad they are doing this. The powerful pedophiles need to be called out. Story 186. Accusations of child rape led supporters of Donald Trump to send death threats to the alleged victim. Ideally, any release of information should occur through the legal system to prevent this from happening again. Story 187. I think it will achieve nothing. The party of the rich and powerful currently controls all 3 branches of government, and the people who voted them into power have already forgotten that they cared about saving the children now that it is no longer politically convenient. Story 188. Bring it out. Shine the brightest light possible on it all. Name and shame even the so-called good guys who claim they only did it once and say it was a mistake. Mistakes are putting on mismatched shoes in the morning or taking the wrong keys with you. Repeated sexual assault of a child is not a mistake. It is a deliberate choice. I never got a chance to expose my childhood abusers. There were 2, and I was also raped. I will happily support these women. Bad secrets are protected in the dark. In the light, they lose their power. Treat survivors with the dignity and respect they deserve. Story 189. I am scared for them. It takes a lot of courage to do what they are doing. People are not going to be kind about it. I hope everything works out for them. Story 190. Honestly, I think it takes a lot of courage. They are not just telling their stories. They are taking back power in a situation designed to silence them. Story 191. I am all for it, but I fully expect several mysterious suicides to occur if they try. Story 192. I would be surprised if they survive very long. They will likely receive a settlement and be silenced quickly. We can dream of justice, but I would not get my hopes up yet. Story 193. They should be very secretive and careful with their communications. This is the best chance we have yet of getting to the truth. Story 194. A victim told us today that Epstein frequently bragged about his friend Trump and that she went on a trip with Clinton. Story 195. I think many so-called patriots will not believe them, but they will believe the man who says that the windows in the White House cannot be opened and that they weigh 600 pounds. Story 196. Good for them, and may all pedophiles and their accomplices rot in hell. Story 197. Each of them has already been threatened with retribution if they speak. They are a brave group, and I hope they are not harmed. This truth is what we need. Story 198. It should not be necessary and will be much messier, but when the justice system fails, it falls to the court of public opinion. Story 199. Tentatively in favor, but to what end? Without evidence, we cannot trust such a list for legal or social consequences. Even if every survivor is completely truthful, there is no way to prevent random people from infiltrating it by pretending to be survivors to smear anyone they dislike. Dozens, hundreds, or thousands of people could claim that a particular politician or public figure abused them. Even if a person did abuse someone, the real victim would be lost in the noise. How do you tell the difference between someone with 100 fake accusations and someone with 95 fake accusations and 5 real victims? You cannot. Everyone who already hates that person would believe all the allegations, and everyone who already supports that person would disbelieve them. In principle, there could be a vetting process that requires proof before a claim is taken seriously. But then real victims without proof would feel silenced, and others would become angry on their behalf. I do not see a good way to do this reliably, even though it would be desirable. Story 200. It is about time. They should prepare a short document listing who did what to them, at what age and in what location, and who introduced whom to whom. If they are telling the truth, then they are helping society a great deal. Story 201. They shouldn't have to. Our government shouldn't be a fucking clown show. It should have at least half a nut. Story 202. Strength in numbers. Whenever powerful individuals can be held accountable for heinous crimes, I am fully on board. I hope these people find justice. Being abused by someone in power leaves a lasting mark, and it is tragic to have to live with regret while a powerful person enjoys what they have done without consequences. Story 203. Somebody has to do it. Neither party has been interested for obvious reasons. Story 204. I am sincerely worried about their safety, but I admire their bravery. Story 205. I wish none of them had been raped or assaulted and that they did not have to come forward. I applaud their strength in speaking up on their own, since once again no one is protecting or aiding them. That is particularly disgusting. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.